So I didn't really look at myself. Taking care of business, Monday intermission, and on Mondays, I decided like Tuesday through Friday for me to really sink in, for me to really kind of just like really like set it in, right? For me to one key point for me and my expectation for just the quality of the content production, for me to reach that expectation, there has to be like some type of thriller energy when like what, because the book I'm thinking about is the Chaos book, and I skimmed it and I read it on, obviously, like when I read the book, I'm not just only reading the book online. I could be reading the book offline, and when I'm reading that offline book, I'm also kind of seeing like where I kind of have my understanding with it, and how I'm just seeing like the weather of things do its thing, right? So there's a weather of things, and within that weather of things, obviously the combustions are various. So with the combustions that are various, um, it's just up to us if we want to follow up with that, right? And and you can kind of see it like it was a thing. It was a thing throughout history, right? So throughout history, these events in the past were because of different quote unquote solar storm activities. Solar storm in just a different context being meaning two different like energy virtues of foundations, like energy virtues, and those energy virtues come from like some type of energy foundation, right? So within that there's a thing, right? And those things, like three planets could be in just any constellation. That constellation is just holding the temperament space of the element, and then a yang solidified form of consciousness is reacting with that environmental form in the space, the planet and the constellation. So if there's many planets, such as a conjunction combustion, I like to call them for some reason, conjunction combustion in one space, and we're a microcosm of the solar system, and we have our own synastry, right? Like we have different like yang planets effects, like the sea. For some reason I'm getting technical difficulties because I just came through spinning the like just the standard astrology of things. So the standard of astrology of things is seeing like how within the different planets in the future, and we're going along with their no choice aspect, right? Because we're the micro solar systems to just that standard collective bigger array of the solar system, right? So it's that collective solar system, right? That we're in, like on a natural level. So I'm saving the chaos book for tomorrow because I'm trying to like relate it to like and quote unquote sync it with like seeing how like these these things in history had an occurrence relationship with the astrology of the past 2,000 to 6,000 years ago. So we're just a new chapter on that 2,000 to 6,000-year-old build up significantly, because that was the psychological culture of the human itself. It was the recent like development of the humans, right? The last 6,000 years ago. So within those last 6,000 years, it was the buildup, and there was a background like kind of like an esoteric law having to do with like subtle Jupiters and subtle like Mercuries and like all of that, like just this different type of ritualistic type of like setting that has to do with like relating and going in it before and after like paganism, right? So I'm gonna save like the chaos book for Tuesday through Friday because I want to really kind of like bring the astrology with it and seeing how like it like the because the different tribes that are there, they're soul families within a dream body, and if they're soul families within a dream body, that soul family came from some type of like temperament of energy within an environment, and then it phased in and out and beyond, or perhaps like the Saturn matrix, right? Because the Saturn matrix is something of the recent infrastructure like that's connected with Earth. So all of this AI shit, all of the news in the media, it's old news, and that's just what it is on a standard intelligence level. It's old news because this is the stuff that the predecessors have been decoding and solving in 2012, just on a different level. Like we're in the matrix type of shit. So the news that they're presenting to us right now, it's a particular subtle context of deception because it's not the whole truth, right? So it's just like this is a different critical intelligence. So Tuesday through Friday, I like when I looked at the first part of the book of the chaos book, it's having to do with like the lineages of things, right? The lineages, and those lineages have a correspondence with some type of soul group, some soul family that has bonded its own collection of like water energies that are irrespective in relationship to the moon and respect and have a respective relationship to the moon. So so that's what like a soul family is, and for the soul families to have some type of intersection with like some type of Saturnalian law, then the soul families are all the soul families just in the standard matrix context. They're going in and out of some type of surface level construct of like a Saturn Mercury matrix, where the families in the past from the last 6,000 years ago, all the dynasties respectively, they're still going in through the construct of the planets. So no matter who gets inspired and like just does their unique replication, there's always something like respectively like greater, right? Respectively, or but like pointing it into like a light metaphor type of feeling, right? Not trying to like have that toxic competition of like hey, I'm better than you type of shit. It's like the maturity of life will tell you like there is some modesty to be achieved within life, right? So that's for me to me though, because in the end, like someone's gonna fucking judge left field, ironically, and they're not gonna realize that you're doing shit for yourself too. So if you're doing shit for yourself and you understand that with your intelligence, then why would you judge someone else for them doing what they're doing for themselves when you're doing the same thing? So that's the particular hypocrisy right there that could start wars on just a left foot ironic way. And that's why, particularly in its esoteric logic, that's why wars could be irrelevant, because you're starting from that particular recent example of you're judging someone of what you're doing because you just don't like how you how things landed within the system of change and the system of stationariness. The system of stationariness meaning there seems to be no change. There seems to be a halt, a standstill, a stop, like in different contexts, not just using a fucking psychological little mini trick just to try to manipulate your agenda, and seeing how that rhetoric it will be like verified, and it will be kind of like seen through if it's just kind of like if it's not what you do, it's how you do it, as like as I had recently said in like the near beginning, right? And Mondays is just the kind of intermission chiller or whatever. And obviously, there's more. I can get more technical with it, but the Mondays right here are just taking care of business to kind of just have that Monday reminder of yeah, life is work. Life is work, and not everybody sees the part you play. Not everybody sees the service you give. Esoteric, shame on them, because we're all it's one big cycle of life, and if you don't realize the cycle of life and you're judging someone else and condemning someone else for something that they could ultimately help you, then ultimately that's just it just seems like an esoteric problem. There's esoteric problems, right? Things are clogged within the data pipelines, and that data pipeline IT meltdown is a reflection of different things having just certain esoteric problems arising, and from seeing those esoteric problems arising, a certain type of clogging happens in the matrix. So if there's a certain type of clogging that happens in the matrix, that's going to reflect inevitably within the circle of life, and how artificial intelligence needs God, source, nature, life, energy. Then then we could see like how meltdowns could occur on a itinerary type of computer logistic technological data center level, original open source. And like I know what they're doing with the, the whole combination of the words. I've been like, that's already been a thing. And like that's the thing, it's like every language is doing that shit, that nature shit uniquely. Like we're all doing the same shit, right? We're all like we're all finding new, I guess, little algorithms, right? Of how like, okay, there's one word that points to like three different words. Like obviously I understand that part, but for us to like to trace that to some type of origin, that's where your AI needs and yearns the nature intelligence like this stream, for it to keep its fucking balance and not have meltdowns. Because AI or I, it's not advanced enough to balance the meltdowns. It's not doing that. It's needing help from a different source, lineage, for real, without any type of subtle standards, copycat replication of anything. And a higher AI fixing all of that shit, seeing everything that was quote unquote copied, end quote, because that's the real potential of a real fucking original AI, is to fucking actually answer all of any of these little pussy titty ass questions, and for real bring them in truth, action, balance, and solution balance, truth and solution action. It's that real shit. It's not, but like I understand that artificial fabricated channel of things. I get it. And I'm not saying it's one race or another race. Every race, any race, could just lean on some type of energy of distortion. You don't have to get all racial about all of these crazy, like, I guess just how you call that? Western Europe, Middle Eastern, because there's obviously, like, if our national intelligence grows, there's a contrast between West America and East America to the whole Eastern continent. There's like a big contrast, right? So like we don't have to demonize any of the races. All the races have their gifts, and all the races could have their sketchy trades, right? But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So I'm just trying to say, like, it's not necessarily racial, but it could be racial because we all have a genetic gift, right? So I guess in a different, sleek, logical balance, it could kind of get racial, but not with the emotional mindset or the intelligent mindset. It just could get racial because some people could just use that race card to like use that for some type of power and represent themselves, and kind of just use that to, like, I guess, represent, their shit, right? And that's what makes a unique country, like how people are just using stuff to protect themselves, and like their central military intelligence will verify if it's sketch or not. So because the race, it's not about the race. But like some people can like use it out of pocket though. Like they could use it like just for their own, like, individualized, selfish, kind of out of pocket, like toxic ways. Like, because obviously if you use your race to protect your country, that's a difference from using your race to just try to, like, I guess, fight for some type of material prize, right? Because in the end, that's what the creature mind does. It's just like there's a part where we've like habituated ourselves with toxic patterns, where we're just doing it for some reason, just for the material, and we're just kind of like like downplaying, like, spiritual life, and for whatever that is to you, right? So every Monday, and I'm also gonna do like a reading technique where I just read each paragraph, but I just read the first and last sentence of the paragraph. And that technique is just to, like, so you can cover more pages faster. So like I'm gonna read the table of contents, mini intro. I'll read all the intro because it's all the intro, right? So I'm not gonna do that technique. But like when I read chapter 1, right? If I read just like, if it's a big paragraph, I'll just read the first sentence and the last sentence, and I'll do that for every paragraph. and I'll cover like 20 pages as if they were 5 pages, because you're kind of breaking it down, and then I'll read like it before or after, and for the next Monday class I'll just be like, here's what I kind of missed with that, right? So for the Monday, I kind of like switched it to like, in chapter 1, for some reason it's just 21 to 32. That's like what, 11 pages, 10 if you just cut the trim, so it's 10 pages, because obviously is that a page right there? No, it's a trim page. So like in the age of Kali, we're going from a lot of things that have been deactivated to some type of unique activation, right? So like if things were more coming from a significant place of like deactivation and closed offness, and there's a unique threshold that's opening different like spiritual energy doors, then in the future that's going to magnify and it's going to accelerate, and it's going to like kind of like accumulate and accelerate, and it's going to be like something of like a different like snowball effect, where like different energies are going to come online, and that's going to make like the temperament of the environment of the future's environment temperament is going to be based on how things are coming from offline to online, and that particular type of online is significant because coming out of the age of Kali, there's a unique stronghold for whatever reason, or more or less throughout the timeline, and uniquely different and subjective. But from the age of Kali, there was some type of stronghold, right? There was some type of darkening, right? And within that darkening, things were offline for whatever reason, and now some things that are coming from the offline, they're coming to the online, right? And the things that are coming onto the online, they're gonna braid more with your human body and your genetic being. It doesn't matter how old you effing are, respectively. We're just in a different game within the solar system and the quote unquote galaxy, end quote. And I say quotes because we have to process that twice, right? Maybe more. 2 times 2 is 4, right? We have to process it like for real. 2 squared is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. So it's like 4 times so I might double quote that. And one quote is 2 dashes for whatever reason. And then you could just single quote. So it's 1, 2, 4, right? And obviously that's, the computer technique, that type of like old school, like 2008 tech code, right? Because if there's teachers will drop gems, or you'll find gems in books of just like 2008. Here's where the tech code was. Here's the coding world, right? In 2008 type of shit. And just a little magazine can just kind of inspire you. And you know what? You know what's funny? What if I dig up different magazines that relate to video games and just quote unquote general IT, end quote, from '08, and it's there, so it's like it's there, it's like we're in the age of information, but different spiritual systems are saying the age of information and the age of quote unquote tech, end quote, I say the quotes so you can understand it differently, is even that will have a plateau and we will go beyond that, right? So in one point of time, there's going to be a closing transition of in one respect, and it's a context thing, it's a pivot thing of where the age of AI will have some type of ending too, right? So that ending of AI, it could be 2032, 2048, 2020. The start could be 2027 for all we know. There could be a different solar system energy residual of different planetary and solar system and galaxy bifurcations that can make some unique bifurcation fusion effect. And my intuitive definition of bifurcation is just some type of change within change, respectively, original open source. And I've talked about bifurcations in my own unique way like years ago in Underground podcast, and that will be brought up later, just for my structure, of logic. So let me read the back right here. Taking care of business Mondays, so we can remind ourselves we all have work. We have to work for life, right? We have to work for some type of service. We have to do some type of service, so we could it's like quote unquote God, end quote. He's like quote unquote making us serve, end quote. And I say the quotes because it's not exactly that, but it's like if you're not gonna like serve for what could be serving you, then what's the point of like living, right? So I'm just trying. So every Monday, taking care of business, and Tuesday through Friday will be the chaos book, and then me, relating the chaos book hopefully neatly with just the astrology transits. Because if I do the chaos book from chapter one and I do the technique to read it really fast and stuff, I'm kind of like they're starting with the history of it, and those histories are saying it's like soul family lineage type of shit. The different like the chaos book is saying like just all the races in their ancient form, right? So all the races in their ancient form, we could have cross-referenced it. We could have like crisscrossed from that race and maybe went to a different race, or we could have stayed with the same bloodline. If you stayed with the same bloodline, you're probably the royalty of that race. If you're the royalty of that race, because you are the soul that somehow reincarnated from kind of just maintaining that race. So all the rich people that you see that are in the race is because their origin blood like line and stuff like that, it's just related to like the recent caregivers or the original caregivers of that territory, right? And obviously, we can get all nuancy with the effects too of like how new races came from root races, right? So obviously there's that. So it's a unique advanced genetic differentiation is what the humans are. Because what are the humans? Advanced genetic differentiation. So see how like I've been doing this shit like since like 2017 underground hard like exact like 2017. I feel the podcast when I just undergrounded them. Like the energy that I'm bringing in 2025 underground in 2017, I'm still like that. But the thing is, it's like there's always you can always be better though, right? You can always be better because if I want to come on here, like I want to come on here structured, right? Like I'm not gonna come on here just pussyfooting around, right? I'm gonna read books, and I see deal with sex in the office. Can you handle sex in the office? Whoever like sex office, that's like one of the most fantasy fucking driven sex ordeals you could have. It's in the office. It's like let's tie for tie. It's desk for desk. It's like, oh, pencil in the hand, pencil in here. Don't stab me. Maybe she little poke with the pencil. No, it's like, oh shit, notepads. She's writing down notes. Oh, she has a thought. She has a thought. She's gonna pull the hair. Oh, taking care of business. Is he taking care of business? Is he gonna pay for this pussy? Is he gonna pay for this top-notch pussy or not? If he's not, I'll find someone else to pay for this top-notch spiritual fucking gems. So from job interview to executive suite / seat. Executive suites. Now I got executive seats, executive meets, executive greets, executive deets, executive leaks, executive meeks, executive steeps, executive dreams, executive beams, executive gleams, executive creams, executive teams, executive kings, executive fiends, executive rings, executive trings, executive chings, executive kings. Taking care of business Mondays, Tuesday through Friday. Casually wake up early, casually read the book, casually, and see just the light astrology transits and how they've had their background accumulation process of working up to things, and we're still using it as new consciousness, working with the new consciousness of the solar system's environment and space, advances esoteric astrology, and weaving a reflection and a co-inhabitor of that change of the solar system transformation. And seeing how like that it's a background thing, right? So since it's a background thing, when I read the chaos book, it's going to be like why like this like the ancient origin races, right? Because that chaos book it's talking about like it's naming all the races and its ancient things. What were they do like they're a result and a product of what they did. Where like every country that is living right now, you're a result and a product of what you guys did. because if there was a doing, so within that doing had to result into something, and since the doing had to result into something, and you're still doing stuff, you're working with something that has already been done because of something of what you did. You're dealing with something that you're supposedly doing right now with other doings, and you're trying to find non-doing within the Tao, just so something else can be done in the future. So the thing that is going to be done in the future is to try to attempt to balance the ill effects of what has been done in a different logical aspect, right? So what am I saying here? I just want to like kind of like press it in, I just want to press in the and obviously like I may God see and reveal the death, like the opposer's intentions, right? The opposer's intentions may light be shined upon them, where everybody just already knows, and from that natural law can take place, right? And natural law, just you being the right to be sovereign, perhaps, right? But that varies, right? So let me read the first chapter of this book. Every Monday I'll do this, and I'm reading this particularly on Monday because it's for me to remind myself of just the natural service of life, right? So the natural service of life, and then Tuesday through Friday, the chaos, and then the astrology and the Tao class could happen, and that might last 3 to 5 weeks, right? So within that 3 to 5 weeks, I'm just reporting the astrology of it, seeing the Tao thing, and then obviously however the fuck the ancient copyright system, the real original authentic system, how that got fabricated and surface level, and it's just being and the new one is just like it's just playing with out of pocket, fragmented, like obsolete, like different tangents and facets of law. It's like there's critical differences with this, because if we're going to talk about the Tao, and the Chinese have their own definition of the copyright system, and then in America there's just this fucking distorted way to fucking use that shit, and it's just fleeting, and it's just all of these like laws are being broken, and like since all the laws are being broken, like they're just like kind of pussyfooting with the intelligence, and they're just kind of like having like this imbalanced way where it's not per se a free for all. There's still gravity per se, right? You still have to work up to like kind of fly, right? So it's not entirely a quote unquote free for all. So I'm like precise with the logic, you know. But obviously, like 95 to like 98%, it is a free for all, because everything is new, everything is energy. So in one sense, it is a free for all, because that's the nature and the chaos of the energy. But still, God is in, paradoxically, a share of the nothingness or whatever, original open source. So as he's within that share of the nada, that's how he could, like, in one sense, that's how he could preserve and bring order to even the craziest chaos, perhaps, right? Perhaps, because there's fucking crazy titty solar storms and the solar system, but yet Earth still hasn't fucking melted off, quote unquote, for whatever reason. We're still here for whatever reason. Someone's still allowing us to be here. That's the high original God. So Mondays, taking care of your business, your beeswax, your biddly, nickly, diddly, Mickey D, McGriddle, shout out Mickey D's. Taking care of business Mondays. So Tuesday through Friday, the chaos book, right? And because I looked at I was reading the chaos book this morning. So, and I was like, something's like, so I have to come like more like, for it to like kind of like have a quality, quote unquote, syllabi info, for me to update it on, like, if I were to update that and just do the review of that project, if I were to put that on paper, then I would like want to put the fucking like, the astrology workings within it too, because that's just that's just the spin of it, right? So like, because like I'm barely gonna start the chaos book. I haven't reached chapter 1. So if I do chapter 1, I have to like come on point, right? I have to come on point with the series. I'm not just gonna read the fucking book and just like, you did this all by yourself without nature. No, nature, the subtle of the subtle is it's there, dude. It's there's something like a parent, it's revealing it because that's what needs to be revealed to you. That's where you're at within the game of nature, right? It's like life is like a video game. It's like life is like kind of like it's like it's for some reason Animal Farm is coming. Animal Farm is coming, the video game Animal Farm. But like it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that video game, But that video game, it could be like that video game, right? And like I think jealousy and envy comes from like I think it's fed. I think jealousy and envy is like it's only fed because we're overly concerned with the material realm. If you're overly concerned with the material realm, you're not seeing how no one really gives a fuck in like the real spiritual realm because it's only you having to work with the original God to move through this shit of the spirit, right? Of the field of the spirit, right? Of the original field of the original spirit, right? Original open source. So like within all of that, like all of the competition could go out the door if you're just kind of concerned with like after you die in this mortal realm, what happens? You're away from your family. There's a 99% chance that you will not incarnate with the same family. You'll probably have like reflective lessons or obviously it could be subjective though. It could be subjective. If you do some like haunting techniques, and somehow you could like reincarnate and do some like some type of like Patrick Swayze type of thing, in the movie Ghost, right? There could be that context, but like I would say like once we die after this life, we're gonna separate from our family 99% chance like completely, and perhaps so when I say that because for some reason the family within the families like there's this like unknown competition, right? So if there's this unknown competition within families of like who it is what it is, right? This is like the deep psychology of it, and I'm just saying generally, right? There's like a competition thing that's going on, and why do I bring that up? Because if you focus on the spiritual knowledge, we could transcend that because if once we die, we're going to go on to a whole different lesson, right? Our individual soul is going to go on to a completely different lesson, and the things that you're quote unquote being jealous over for another individual spirit, it won't matter because in the end, it's the spiritual work we have to be concerned about because that's the shit that we're ultimately paying everything to: the dividends, the residuals, the ROIs, the STPs, the PVDs, the DVPs, the LLTs, the TTLs, the KTLs, all of that, all of the original algorithms, for all of the like these post algorithms, it's like it's being balanced from a whole different source that we're working for. We're serving the spirit, but we're blind and we forgot, and now we're confused that there's suffering in the world. It's like it's this left foot. It's this left foot intelligence of critical thinking that people just don't get, So the better you manage people and yourself, the more you'll succeed in a career. In this humane, down-to-earth guide, Dr. David Biscott shows you how to develop the personal insights and the communication skills vital to achieving your professional goals. You'll discover how to relate effectively to office colleagues. You'll discover how to relate effectively to office colleagues, acquire the essential art of listening, and negotiate successfully. In a wide range of business situations, Dr. Biscott offers you a powerful techniques to help you read people clearly, recognize your own talents, and get your message across the board. Learn the best ways to give and get honest feedback. Learn the best ways to give and get honest feedback from peers and superiors. Interview, be interviewed, and run a meeting on any fucking new software IP or whatever. Take strong criticism and give positive guidelines. Keep the creative process flowing. Appreciate, encourage, stimulate. Take strong criticism and give positive guidelines. Handle the heat. Deal with sex in the office.
That this book said that, not me. Plus, how to recognize the three main personality types: dependent, controlling, competitive, and respond constructively or, if necessarily, defensively. So that's the thing, the competition mindset, it's there overly in the genetics. It's just there. The competitive shit, it's just there. The competitive. But the thing is, so this book is saying how to recognize the three main personality types: dependent, controlling, or competitive. So life is more than just those three personality types, I would say. But in his context, I guess dependent, controlling, and competitive. The dependent would probably investigate the spiritual knowledge more than the others, right? So it would go towards that like branch, right? So it's like three is the predecessors and the spiritual teachers. It's their natural branch, right? The three, because but it's natural though, right? And respond constructively or, if necessary, defensively. So this little fucking book on a Monday. Take a swig. Take a swig with some shit. So the thing is, with the whole world peace thing, they use it out of pocket, out of context. The whole world peace thing is like there's a war and a divide between the races, but there doesn't have to be. It's up to the individual to choose if they want to fight for their quote unquote toxic side and version of the government, end quote. But it's a nuance, and I'm not saying everyone is like. I'm not saying like particularly anybody has a toxic government. I'm just saying it in a casual example, kind of like in a sunset anime vibe. Um, the whole world peace thing, it's out of context. It's out of pocket. For world peace to actually happen, the races would need to see how racism doesn't exist per se, but it does, and how we could just see this, how we could work in the spiritual harmony of things, right? But obviously, there's still there, and I'm not saying all problems are going to disappear, but I'm just saying maybe significantly they can with, new spiritual like research, right? And it takes time for like spiritual justice and spiritual like government to actually happen, right? Because if that shit's not there and there's a bunch of suffering in the world, there's a lack of a higher intelligent government, right? Or maybe this is what the people voted for on esoteric level, because I'm really trying to solve the suffering in the world. I'm trying to figure it out from a sociological perspective. Like sociologically, why is there suffering in the world? Like I'm like literally like the first to like investigate that from a long time ago. But and now I'm here, you know, sharing my truth the whole time, low key. I was me since forever, like the surface level matrix game. Other people didn't know that, because the filter of all the biases you have, that's what makes your perception, and that's what I was thinking of before I even did the video. It was just one quote that I just originally came up with, and it's like the filter of all of your biases, that filter and how you made some type of bias, and it just has a filter and it relates to some type of like, I guess, notion or category or whatever. That filter of, that energy of a topic is in you, like metaphysically, and that's making your perception. So the filter of your biases, it's making your perception itself. What personality type are you? Dependent, controlling, competitive? I would say, see, See, like they bring it in such a way where it's just kind of like I could see like the two-dimensional, you know, shit of it, you know. But dependent, controlling, and competitive. Well, self-control means we all have to be controlling of ourselves. So we all are controlling. So self-control, everybody is controlling, but some are more yin and yang to it, to the control, right? Some are more, they would then be more dependent, right? Or in this context, competitive, right? So competitive. So naturally, I'm competing. I'm in my own lane. Like I transcend competition because the competitive word right there is like, it's like we don't know. We're in different lanes. It's like, what are you like trying to do, right? So before we even think about competition, think about like what are you trying to like do, right? Obviously, like it's just standardly like. Because obviously competition is like we're trying to break that down psychologically, like why competition? Like why? It's because it's like what are we doing? There's like a self competition. So it's like I'm like naturally like kind of just like I'm just naturally like decoding these, right? I'm naturally debunking these. So what personality type are you? Controlling, competitive, or dependent? And respectively naturally debunking them is self-competitive means you know what you want to kind of like, you know what you want to kind of change, right? Controlling means can you self-control yourself, or did some type of weird chaos or rage get the best of you? Dependent, we're all dependent on something, but we all could be self-dependent, self-sufficient, monetized, right? In a new balanced government that has better accelerated results. And seeing how, and the more advanced AI, seeing all the copycat replications of just general things, and still not judging it because, the original real galactic artificial intelligence is like the real alpha of the AI, right? On just a different energy, like, real perspective of it, right? Because like we're like honestly, the real spiritual work is to see how we come from source, right? And if you don't see that that's the real work, then that's okay, then that the reason for the toxic artificiality is to see how things are fabricated. That's like the quote unquote essence of hell, right? Quote unquote end quote. You're just like, it's just fake on fake or something like that. But so there's a critical difference within it. It's like if we don't want to like recognize and honor like pure source, original source, then the hype is unwarranted, because most of the hype within, from what I've researched, is finding the meaning of life type of shit. Where do we come from type of shit. So that's the hype within the philosophical news over centuries, over time. The news over time itself was the main hype trend, was finding the meaning of life, right? Like over time itself, what was the hype and the media and the news that survived over time? It was finding the meaning of life type of shit. So if we're trying to find the meaning of life, and now we have the intelligence to see the gas difference and contrast of like, what quote unquote energetically, what is the essence of hell and what is the essence of heaven, and now we're just doing out of pocket things, then in the end of our life, all we have to really blame is ourselves, taking care of business Mondays, because we're reminding ourselves of the natural work we have to go back to. So that circle of life, that quote unquote standard circle of life, end quote. And obviously I get that channel. I get that channel, and I pray for that channel. I pray that there's balance in that channel. I get it. I get that channel. But for me to have the graceful intelligence to just transcend it like it ain't a thing, that's something different, Let me check the batteries real quick. And this is raw. This is raw AF. Obviously, I know this is raw AF. But just bear with me for a second. So I need to pause, and obviously I'll like surrender to God, right, or whatever. Because
across the distortion, I do believe God is like, he is like taking care of it, you know, like particularly that, you know, like particularly that, like he's particularly taking care of it, right? So in the end, competition will be null and void because it's like there's this competition with nature that you can't win. You can't win against nature and how nature can produce and have more trees in its own ecosystem, and nature being in a different field of the dark neutrino ocean field system. And I talk about that in the underground way different. Nature is also subscribing to a different octave of nature, a different dark neutrino ocean, where its governance energetically is more prominent. Before quote unquote Brahma, before quote unquote the name, before quote unquote the form, before quote unquote the objective and the subjective and the thing and the no thing. That's what the original Vedas are saying. So for us to like just be out of pocket with the hype media news, the quality of your life is your responsibility, because you're like you're just like there's just a faulty relationship with wholeness. It's just a faulty and if there's a faulty relationship with wholeness, let life do what it will do. And I'm not trying to justify complaining or not complaining. We all have like the slip ups, right? But the thing that brings us back from the slip up, it's as if that was some type of working from God, right? From God through the illusion of the devil's playground and the Saturn matrix. Shout out to the predecessors, and having the grace to not demonize that. Shout out to the predecessors, original number one, respectively. So taking care of business Mondays, Tuesday and Friday. The chaos book will be read through accordingly, but the astrology feed will do its thing, you know. It will like it will focus on just like the Mercury Venus of things, because that's like, you know, that's like the first gatekeeper of things, right? Just on a very collective roundabout level, the first gatekeeper is just like Mercury and Venus, and then, you know, or Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and then after would be like, you know, right around the corner is the Saturn, right? So it's like, it's that four, right? Like for just the basics, like affairs of things, right? So focusing on those like four and the moon to begin with, and then obviously you could focus on the other ones how you will, and then you could like kind of like see where would that take you within the next 6 months, right? Of just like being thankful, right? Because obviously I have to be thankful, because I am thankful because I got to go on certain experiences that, you know, be it work or you know, travel, that like, you know, helped, you know, just who I am as a person, and like just define myself, because it's like where should we really go, right? If not here, right? And that's like, obviously that's subjective. So let me read the contents. Let me read the contents of this. So the contents, chapter 1, introduction, part 1, introduction, part 2, psychological tactics. Let me drink this all natural drink. So taking care of business Mondays. Psychological tactics. Wait, let me take a breath. And shout out to all the yogis, right? Like, one thing I gotta say to the yogis is the yoga that's in the future, it's like a whole different shift in society, intellectual mindsets from Kali Yuga yoga. Because the Kali Yuga yoga, it's like, in the recent 100 years, it's like gurus were just kind of like abusing this. Certain gurus have abused certain shit, and they just used material shit just for their own material gain. And they didn't do any natural Tao work for them to fucking be greedy and sketch and toxic, right? And that notion of a personality trait has kind of bleeded out, and it was kind of like it kind of like transmitted out something like an intellectual psychological like sickness, right? End quote. Where the Kali yoga, it's not going to be, it's way different. Like the yoga in the future, it's not like the Kali yoga. It's like yoga is going back to where it came from, like on a whole different level. And it is like it is like, but like and I'm in Kali in the context. I'm using Kali in the context where it was a state of time where shit just happened, right? Shit just happened. So chapter 1, a psychiatrist's toolkit. Chapter 2, your personal profile. Chapter 3, understanding other people, learning how to read people, the 3 personality types: dependent people, controlling people, competitive people. And even in the labor office, even like, because I've done construction gigs a lot. So like even in the labor office, there's always like, minor or sub controlling people. There's always a manager. There's always some type of superiority within the work infrastructure. And if AI could help that, that's on some other shit, and like on a different channel, right? Because obviously they're taking notes. The irony of AI, all they can do is replicate to advance. So where's the fair reciprocation with spirit? That's the difference. That's why your AI is just, it's beta, and 5 years from now, you'll understand. The intelligence doesn't understand because their perspective, it's too diminished. The bandwidth is too like toxified, right? It's psychopaths, con men. So what led me to say that? The 3 personality types: dependent people, controlling people, competitive people. Psychopaths, con men, a comparison of the 3 types of people. So yeah, so I would have to rewind to see what I said so I could refresh myself to what I said. But it's just ironic that like there's a whole different working of spirit. The main point that I'm trying to say is there's a working of spirit that's transcending the AI shit, and there's future prophecies that know that, and there's certain deep AIs that know that fucking prophecy. So I'm proving so many times how your AI in one context is just learning, right? And like I get people's perspectives, And shout out to everyone, So part 3, communicating with others. Introduction. Part 2, psychological tactics. Part 3, communicating with others. Chapter 4, face to face. Hello, put in the work. Follow your rhetoric. Follow your rhetoric without some copy paste replication fucking tech data advertisement. Do your rhetoric. Do your job. Communicating others face to face, using the telephone effectively. Oh, I guess you can do your job. Chapter 6, written communication. Okay, chapter 7, how to run a business meeting. Hey, we running it. We running the business meeting. Let things take care of themselves. The Tao birthing this, letting spirit take control. But obviously, like, that's obviously like, it's not something to like, it's a nuanced thing, it's not something to like use as like, hey, let's use this to fucking do this. That's why there's a subtle natural law. But like, I'm investigating subtle natural law if I want to like kind of like really just chill with it, because obviously like taking care of business, it's like, it's like the Tao is also telling me it's like let things kind of take care of themselves, right? And like that has to be practiced, right? A lot of practice has to go into that. Why? Because it's like if we don't practice that, then we could be in a funk and spoil ourselves because we're not letting the bigger picture do its thing. We're trying to toxically control the bigger picture out of pocket. And that's the source of suffering and the quality of life right there. That one thing, trying to toxically control the bigger picture. That's it right there. That's it right there. Because obviously we've heard it like over the last 5 to 10 years, let go. Last 50 years, let go. What does that mean? It's a subjective thing to how are you trying to toxically control the bigger picture or not? And if you're not trying to toxically control the bigger picture, but you're trying to have some self-control and a toxically controlled dynamic, that's the fucking the ancestry karma. That's the genetic karma right there. The genetic karma is your unique subjective test, the battles that you're going through that no one else knows you're going through. Only you know you're going through the battles that you're going through. So that's where the fucking hype and the rhetoric falls short in your life. That's where all of the fucking advertisements and the self-help coaches, that's where they all fall short because there's a lack of understanding with significant solution-oriented change that's not occurring. They're wanting to keep it to themselves. They're focused on some type of devilish, demonic competition, some type of demonic fucking satanic competition that they don't want to admit to you, regardless of the creed or organization or religion they're representing. It's all archetypical, you know, in one sense. It's all genetically archetypical, and they don't even realize it, you know. So how to run a business meeting. So that's the thing. It's like the AI isn't necessarily recognizing the fair resonance of things, period. Number one intelligence in the universe. So since it's not recognizing that and it's barely learning that and it's getting that suggestion on how something else has already did that, then what does that mean? It's learning from that original open source. So how to run a business meeting, because it's like there's a nuance with letting go. No, don't let go of your ability to self-control, because that's the only original control you have. So the original control of your self-control, you have to decode the nuance of letting everything go. And if you don't do that, then you won't know what to fight for. And I've said that in the underground for a long time. So if you don't know what to fight for, then you'll fall for anything type of shit. So, and if you fall for anything, then that's another case for a quote unquote esoteric fuck up or suffering, end quote, disaster. And how you prevent the disaster, that's the real esoteric hospital industry type of shit that the spirit foundated, and now we find the postcard for it feeding off that shit without it realizing it. So we all have to pay the dividends to source, to the original source. And I don't really care about shit, you know. My mind is balanced where I'm like, yeah, God will take care of this shit. You know, like I really don't get like the people that think I give a fuck about certain shit. I really do not, you know. And for you to dwell on that shit, that's petty intelligence, right? It's petty motherfucking intelligence. So now on my chapter 7, how to run a business meeting, is the fucking AI and the software and you know the real quote unquote IT communication team of balance, is that really on board or not? Because if it's not, then just have fun with robotic consciousness and robotic karma in just a particular nuance. And I break it down and I decode that for you and I solve that riddle for you, quote unquote, freely, end quote. So it's a real paradox. This whole fucking everything that is happening is just some fucking sick ass paradox, or it's a beautiful paradox though. It's beautiful though, you know. Shout out to the divine feminine showing up, the divine feminine, you know, being a representation of God and shit, you know, the divine feminine, like just doing, like being free, showcasing liberty, the ones that made it, one of God's children that made it, you know. Shout out to that divine feminine, like. And, you know, may you have that, you know, may you have the relationship with liberty that you hope for, you know? So chapter 7, how to run a business meeting. Chapter 8, how to interview. And I've intuitively, I've already like interviewed, like I know how to interview, you know, or I've done like, mock-up interviews like by myself, like, just asking certain questions. But obviously, like, chapter 8 will tell me what's up too, you know. Chapter 8, how to interview 111. Chapter 9, how to take an interview. And obviously this is a shift between like the general kind of like, just the general society things you should know of just like kind of like running background checks, taking like, getting, understanding credit reports and, understanding just kind of, seeing people's like records and stuff, like I understand that part. So that part could be like added into that, the credit checks, the background reports, seeing like, just seeing like, the ownerships of houses and shit like that, the notary owners and, just like different tax fronts and tax cuts and different agriculture kind of like, like edicts and grants and like that. And then different financial things and different media things. I've been studying this shit like intuitively since 2012, So it's like, there's a difference between the copy of things and yeah. Chapter 9, how to take an interview, getting results, part 4. Chapter 10, increasing productivity. Chapter 11, let's take this criticism. Let's take it. Maybe Sundays, because Saturdays you gotta like every Sunday, man. Maybe I should just leave Sundays just for taking criticism, because for some reason my intuition is like it's highlighting that, it's something that's needed for growth that goes over our head to take criticism. Chapter 12's giving constructive criticism. Chapter 13, playing with fire, sex in the office. Chapter 14, the psychology of negotiation. Chapter 15, enhancing creativity. Some final advice after chapter 15. So chapter 15, the final chapter of taking care of business, they put creativity last. And God's taking care of all of this. So it's us against our ego. We're fighting our own ego because our ego doesn't want us to realize that, God could be taking care of shit or not, and maybe he's not, quote unquote, end quote. Maybe he's not, Sometimes maybe he's like literally not. Maybe what if God in a different like world is just like, fuck you, I'm not taking care of this. Like, but that's just an opinion, right? Obviously, I've heard it all. And I guess I'll just read the intro, right? And I'll read chapter 1. Let's see, chapter 1. How long is chapter 1? Okay. Chapter 1's not that long. Oh, so chapter 1 is really juicy because I've read some text in the bold. So they left the creativity at the last one. Yeah, so taking care of business. It's like we're fighting with our ego. We're fighting with egos. The original fight is like the ego fighting on just a standard psychological level. It's the ego fighting. It happens everywhere. It happens in coffee shops. It happens at high school. It happens in middle school. It happens in elementary schools. It happens, the ego fighting, it's everywhere. It's happening in gas stations. But it's subtle though, or it might be like, it's less apparent. even if it's not there, it's always there. The ego fighting, it's always there. But like for it to like kind of be like casual, that's the chill miracle of it, right? For it to be casual, but the ego fighting, it's always there, right? Because the ego fighting is the first psychological cock block to everything. Because someone's ego, they're gonna try to dox you. They're gonna try to make a case for them to block what you're ultimately supposed to work with and enter in. They're gonna like, their ego is gonna blemish and dox you, your character. They're gonna quote unquote attempt to assassinate your character. The first step to like you not living your path and just trying to destroy you, energetically speaking, right, or esoterically speaking, excuse me. And I'm not saying it's like, you know, literal disclaimers, case by case and shit like that, but because I'm just like, if people don't understand like my precision to details in my original open source with all of this shit, then they're missing the point of they're in one sense they're rendering their job obsolete, because everything that they're saying that could be a possibility with the technology that they're using, and they're not doing it, then they're rendering that useless. And I'm just saying that on an esoteric level, you know? So like the ego has to work with the matrix, etc., to see how the ego needs to like kind of quote unquote most honestly fall in line. Like we have to fall in line, right? Because I'm trying to figure out like, let things take care of themselves, right? Let things, that's what I'm trying to tell myself. Let things take care of themselves, right? So if I let things take care of themselves, I'm okay with that. It's because my ego just did that balance work, and now you just got to be patient, right? Type of shit, you know? But like, I don't want to be like too like transparent, but if that's my new communication style, being too transparent, then that's a new communication style. It's a new communication style. And I know everybody's listening to this shit because I'm fucking on the real fucking, you know, meta algorithm. I'm all up in that shit. Communication, you know, just that's all I really need to say, you know, that word itself right there. It's very like, I have my own relationship with working with that, bringing it to enhance it, right? You know, consciousness, whatever consciousness is, right? So it's a fight with the ego that we're dealing. Life, like what is life? It's a fight with egos. That's it. Like that's what's really happening. And if we don't investigate on a natural law and we let the matrix law just govern just like sketchy shit, then the distorted egos will leverage the distorted law. And I'm just energetically saying it. I'm not saying anything particularly about anybody. I'm just saying and that's happened across life. It's happened across time, where people will try to just like do some outdated old shit that doesn't work anymore in the new shift. But fuck around and find out, motherfucker. You would be much more effective if you knew how to handle your business matters unemotionally. When your personal feelings interfere in business, they cause frustration, cloud your judgment, and lead to failure. You must keep your emotional distance to be successful. This book will teach you the psychology of winning. We won. We're doing it. We're doing some fair shit. We're increasing our fucking intelligence for real on a feel-good nature way, without fucking being too overly enmeshed in demonic artificial consciousness. Hey, the original logical savior. This book will teach you the psychology of winning in business. No matter how humane your motives, you are in business because you want to profit from your efforts. In business, you work with other people, not for friendship, but because you want them to help you reach your goals. So obviously, yes, sister, what are the goals? Self-sufficiency, okay. Self-sufficiency, okay. What's stopping self-sufficiency? Just I guess behind in working with life, right? Because obviously, like, I would have to like own up to some shit, right? You know, like there's some type of like imbalance, just to put it in a balanced way. And if people don't understand my approach of balance, then please get out of here. Like, just leave. And I know you're unappreciative. No matter how, did I already read that? If you are in business, but because you want them to help you reach your goals. If you are in business to achieve some kind of emotional gain, you will lose. If you make business people your audience, they can control you by withholding their applause. If you make business people your audience, they can control you by withholding their applause. Not necessarily true. Business behavior is measured rather than spontaneous. You pay for everything. Whenever you use a business situation to feel better about yourself, you give others an unfair advantage, because in business, neediness makes you vulnerable. So if you seek praise, people will praise you, not enough to satisfy you. Oh, this shit is deep already. Damn, this book is fucking deep as tits. Just enough to keep you coming back for more. Emotions give your hand away. You know, that's like, it's a nuanced thing, you know. You still must learn to walk the fine line between being friendly and being friends. Friends share the same vulnerability, while business associates do not. Business associates have their own interest at stake, not the other person's. So then I could go back to what people in his context are we working with? Dependent people, competitive people, or controlling people. So he's looking at the situations that he made for himself. He's relating it to his context of how there's three different types of people, you know. So I'm seeing like his perspective is like in his relationships of the business world, he's seeing the competitive, the controlling, and the dependent people from the cutthroat business perspective, and how they're playing new parts and new masks from coming from a tribe of cutthroat business stuff, standardly saying that, and seeing from those people, there's a competitive aspect, there's a controlling aspect, and there's a dependent aspect, something of a father, mother, son dynamic, right? So these triunes and these trinities, they're relating to other triunes and trinities, more or less subjectively. Business associates have their own interest at stake, not the other person's. Accepting this without taking it personally is the key to being effective. Most of the people who are victimized in business set themselves up to be used. Most of the people who are victimized in business. So this is all new to me. So I'm like, so thank God it's Aries season, right? Thank God it's like new spring cleaning. Thank fucking God, right? Thank fucking God. Thank fucking God. Thank fucking God for all this shit, just generally. Most of the people who are victimized in business set themselves up to be used. Ooh, that sounds like some like Stockholm syndrome shit. Some fucking dependent, needy, fucking trash can baby orphan type of shit. If you ask them, they'd be quick to point out how others feel we're at fault. But what, like, so I'm trying to relate it to an example though. Like I'm trying to really solve this shit. But what they'd really mean is that when they gave others an advantage, others took it. Other people are not ruthless villains. They are simply in business to survive. So I was gonna title this a different video, and I forgot the title. That's why I need to take the notes down. So the title of this video was gonna be, You know, like if I rehear this, there could be many different like titles, right? Other people are not ruthless villains. They are simply in business to survive. Okay, and like people are like, I get it. Even if you are demonically artificial, there's a small part of you that could lean towards that, you know, that balance, you know, because obviously people will use that, you know, obviously they'll use that justification too, right? We're just doing it to survive. Obviously, you're gonna say that shit. Like obviously, like, oh, I haven't heard of this guy. Obviously, you're gonna fucking say that shit. Like, oh, I'm just barely hearing this. Like, oh, of course, like obviously you're just gonna say that. But if you expect others to look after your needs, you'll only be hurt and find sinister motives where none exist and confuse matters further. If you seek to blame or retaliate, you waste time and energy and reveal your weaknesses. Succeeding in business should not be left to chance. This book will show you how to evaluate other people and it will tell you what they really want. And people want to survive, you know? I think like there's a difference between a want and a need. But we don't know that what we need, we actually do want, but we don't want it how we like to approach to get it. So we put that need want in the back burner. So since we put the need want in the back burner, people want different things based on how they've come to conclusions with what they need or with what they don't need or with what they need but not right now, but they could need it in the future, and but they, so they'll come back to you type of shit, you know, just like generally, right? So succeeding in business should not be left to chance. This book will show you how to so I'm going to write down the title of this live. It's going to be like no, because there's a couple different titles. It's taking care of itself, quote unquote. It's taking care of itself. So business synergistics. So business synergistics, original open source, it's taking care of itself. So this is like low key within, like it's low key intellectually perfect though. Because like the title has to mean something, right? It has to like say some type of real logic. It has to, with the energy work. So the title's there. And then the phrase, it also means everything too, because the shadow work is aligning with the bigger picture. So this is the perfect title, the whole timeline series, sub business synergistics, it's taking care of itself. And then the business right here, right? So Mondays is the business synergistic Mondays. And I don't know if I'm going to read chapter 1. I think I need to read. Yeah. So I'm going to gun through chapter 1. I'll gun through it. I'll gun through chapter 1. I'm just going to read. I'm going to do that tactic. So the introduction, I just had to like ground down the introduction, and I'll just gun through this a couple times. These techniques will help you maximize your strengths, lower your stress, see situations more clearly, and so act more efficiently. Succeeding in business should not be left to chance. This book will show you how to evaluate other people and will tell you what they really want. It will teach you powerful psychological techniques for dealing with difficult business situations, especially those where you are at a disadvantage, blind spot. These techniques will help you maximize your strengths, lower your stress, see situations more clearly, and so act more efficiently. This book will also help you understand how you get in your own way and what you could do about it. And it will show you how to make others feel they have won so that you can enjoy their cooperation and goodwill. Woo! And that's the gift right there, like low key. That, like, if we're bringing the Tao into it, cooperation and goodwill. That's like a Tao gift. because it's vital. It's vital. It's vital. The choice is simple. You can learn to manage the business aspects of your life, or you can leave success to others. So learn to manage the business aspects of your life. Intro. You could pay outrageous prices for meaningless praise, or you could succeed on your own terms and be happy. You should have what you deserve and feel comfortable with. This book presents a method for taking your plans and making them a reality so that you can achieve as much as possible and make your greatest contribution. There's no point in having a dream if you don't have the techniques for making that dream come true. Peep the tech. So I'll highlight the business thing on Monday, but I'll pop in with the business. You know, I might have to like alternate, you know, so let me just do the tactic. When I first began my psychiatric residency, I was surprised to discover that human behavior was not predictable and that there were no set rules for dealing with people or managing difficult interpersonal situations. Ooh, okay, I'll pop back in with this. Thank you.